Oh no.
That's the only word I got.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's terrible. And also joining us is your co-host Hunter.
I'm really sorry right now.
You should be.
But
You
I'm
should
I'm
be.
really happy to be here. I'm super excited. I am so looking forward to talking about tonight's game with tonight's guest. This is exciting for me.
Yeah, we're very excited to have a guest. Originally he's based in Paris, but calling us from New York City. The founder of NovaQuark, and I'm going to say this whole thing once, Jean-Christophe Bailly. They do it. They did it.
You nailed it, man.
Very good. Excellent.
Yes. Yes. Welcome. Now we're just going to call you JC from now on so we don't continuously butcher that. But thank you for joining us, JC. We're very excited to talk about your game. You're, by the way, folks, currently kickstarting game. It is currently in Kickstarter, and there's what, 13 days left? 12 or 13 days left?
Something like that. This? Yeah, it's 13 days, basically 2 weeks. And it's looking good. We're getting close to 400,000 euros, and the goal is at 500,000. So we're confident, but always a bit worried, obviously. So we'll see.
Yeah, you're kind of in the slumpy period before it starts to ramp up near the end. So I totally get that.
Yeah, that's the dynamics usually.
I look at it this
way. In
way.
the middle, and that's where we are at the moment, and it should actually accelerate a bit at the end. Yeah.
Well, Chris Roberts was dead broke when he came on the show, and look at him now.
God.
So,
and by the way, big thank you to Chris Robert, who has written, a message of support to us, and that was really great. And awesome. I cannot thank him enough. So that's really a great gesture from him. So yeah.
So how is the Kickstarter? How's it been running the Kickstarter for you guys? Has it been tough? Have you found it easier than you thought? How's it going on your end?
It's tough. I mean, you don't sleep. You're constantly worried about everything, and also we are spending a lot of time answering every questions. It's very important for us. But we're talking about. I mean, we have a backlog of 200 questions that we will answer by writing. We even did a video where I was actually answering some of those questions.
I saw that. That was nice.
We did also something important is that, I want to mention that, is that we opened our doors to 50 backers that were nearby Paris so that they could come and see and play with the game in a pre-alpha stage so that they could see that this is real because, we're in a time where people are very skeptical about big claims and things like that. What happened recently and so on. So our position is to say, I mean, if you want to ask any question, ask it. We're going to answer. If you want to see the game for yourself, you can come to our offices in Paris and you can try it. So we open our doors. We're going to do that again so that people can actually see what we have. We are saying what we have and we are being as transparent as possible.
that should be a stretch goal, actually, in your Kickstarter, would be that you fly us to Paris to play the game.
It's all actually part of some of the pledges that you get welcome in our offices. But I mean, really, if somebody wants to take a plane and come to Paris and visit us, he or she is most welcome.
See, that's a good thing for
Patreon,
Brian.
1,000
we can
people
buy plane
showing up
tickets
next Monday, but
Do we have to make a reservation?
Yeah, I think it would be better. So we can plan that a little bit. But the idea is that simple. Is that we were, for example, at PAX. We were PAX West. We were at Gamescom, and each time we had hundreds of people coming to our booth and trying the game. Actually, more specifically at PAX because it was open to the public. So we got hundreds of people really trying the game and seeing it for themselves. That everything we've shown in video is real. So it's important to mention that, I think.
All right, now let's talk about the game itself because it's really we haven't been able to touch it, which is sad, I'm going to admit, but it's really impressive looking voxel based massively multiplayer game. And from the looks of it, you can build just about anything. There's a player driven economy. So for people who haven't seen the Kickstarter or just tuning in now to learn about this game, How would you give the elevator pitch for what the big features of this game are?
Yeah, so if I have 5 seconds, I would say it's about rebuilding civilizations with the S together. So that's the super short pitch. If I have a bit more of time, I will stress two of the main features of the game. The first is that it's what we call a continuous single shard. It means that everybody plays in the same world at the same time. And that's a big technological feat. I'm talking about one central server, and everybody connects to that server, and everybody is in the same world simultaneously and can interact with everybody.
So how big is that server going to be? Because
well,
I know CCP has a supercomputer to do that.
well, the same kind of idea, because I think EVE Online is perhaps the only single shard that I know of, and it's the same kind of challenges we are going to face. But we have a different technology. EVE Online is a single shard, so you have but you have different zones like solar systems or areas that are predefined, and when they got filled with as many people that the physical server can handle, then you cannot enter anymore. So you have a sort of a queue, or you are rerouted to another system. So that's a single shot. It's already an incredible technical feat what they have done, and considering also the fact that it has been done I don't know, 12, 13 years ago already. So this is great. What we do with a continuous single shard is that you don't have a fixed, segmentation of space. Everything is dynamic. So if a lot of people are gathering in a certain area, for example, a city, which is very important for us so that you can build cities, well, then we are going to recruit more physical machines around this area, basically. So we've made a video to illustrate this concept. We call it dynamic space splitting. And that's the thing that makes it possible to have this continuous single shard, and at the end of the day, to have cities and planets populated with, I don't know, potentially millions of people. This will work. I mean, there's of course, a level of physical machines that we need to rack up. So we have more and more of them, but they kind of spread where the people are. So there's a relationship between the number of players and the number of machines. So that's
that was
thing.
That was that demo that you were showing where you had like 2,000 virtual players that were standing, and then you had them walking around in the same piece of landscape, right? So that, from what I understood of that, it's basically that clients get updates about each other depending on how distant they are from each other. So if you're not close enough that speedy updates would matter, then you get them infrequently. So, and if you're not on the same planet, then you only need to know what the general area where somebody is. So you don't need to waste bandwidth on it.
Absolutely, that's the fundamental thing you need on top of what I just explained, is that you decrease the frequency of update with the distance, and after a certain distance you just shut down the information, so you don't see the person anymore. So that's fundamental. So that applies both to players, but of course also to constructs like a spaceship or an orbital station. You don't need to update the position of an orbital station every 10 milliseconds. This thing is huge, it moves slowly, and it's very far away. So you'll be fine, I don't know, with an update every minute. That should be completely okay. So that's the trick that will allow us to have a lot of things visible at the same time. There's also a lot of challenges on the rendering side, because if you have, I don't know, 10,000 of people, you have a client issue is to display so many people simultaneously. So we will see, how far we can push this in terms of number of simultaneously visually present entities. But if we have to lower that barriers, it doesn't change much things. I mean, the important thing is that things that are close by are going to be rendered and are going to be fluid the closer they are to you, and that there is no boundary. There's no moment where you have this, you stepping out or in of a zone and you have to queue or things like that. This is an important thing, so that you don't break the immersion.
Well, that's the thing. Hunter and I have played quite a bit of Space Engineers, and visually your game is reminiscent of that, because you're building stations and buildings and spaceships and stuff. But what happens there is, if you build a sufficiently large structure, then it lags the whole server out, because that game apparently is tracking the individual the blocks that are components of each structure. So how do you get around that? Because if you have like thousands of players and they're building skyscrapers
Good
and
question.
stuff, that you're gonna have to merge the blocks together instead of tracking individual pieces.
Exactly. So the answer to that is LODs, so level of details management. So that in fact, when you build a skyscraper, there's details at the lowest level, which are the exact information about your skyscraper walls and everything, and as you build things, we also build at the same time different level of details that are, the things you do at the lowest level are propagated along the different level of details, so that we have a representation of your skyscraper at different resolution that could be used depending on your distance. So if you're far away from the skyscraper, you're not going to use a very fine-grained, detailed representation of it. It's going to be very coarse. And you can see that in some of our videos, when I'm getting close to the space station, it's a bit rough, and then it gets more and more details as we load the details. And it's like a progressive JPEG where the things are updating as you get closer to them, and then you get more and more details. So it's not also something that goes as a whole. You could be close to a particular part of the space station and have a lot of details there, and then as you look further and further away on the same station, then you get different level of details that appears, and there's this transition between different level of details that we have to handle, so that you don't see that you are jumping from different resolution, basically. So this is a bit complicated technology, and to my knowledge, it's fairly new, especially since we coordinate everything over the network, so that if you make a modification, and anybody is close by will also see it. So that's the challenge, and in rendering is to not show the details when you don't need to.
But the server itself is going to have to be aware of the highest level of detail for everything at all
That's
times, right? So that's going to be a lot of memory.
Yes, that's right. But I mean, they are very, very large hard disks, and when you're talking about a cluster with hundreds of machines, you can really have a lot of space.
Right. And
It's also
you
and
could
it's
probably
also very
also
well compressed. This kind of information gets itself very well compressed. You have large walls, you have large, constant areas where the things is basically the same, and that, if you look at compression technologies, this gets very well compressed. So we are not very worried about that aspect.
well, I
So the
noticed part of the
server.
building. Oh, go ahead.
No. Oh, I was just gonna say. So your server technology, you were talking about people. If they cluster in an area more, you're gonna have to allocate more resources to that. So is that essentially like a server farm that you can just say, all right, well, we're gonna just take these resources and now allocate it over to this part of like. Is that how you're working that, or I'm just kind of curious because.
Yeah, that's the general idea. Yes, we have a set of machines that are ready, and there's a front that is the thing you talk to, and the front is in charge of dispatching the load to the physical machines behind the scenes. So you as a player, you don't even know that there is all these things going on. This is handled by the cluster directly. And we're using a programming model for people who are more into programming, that is called actor-based programming. That is, I mean, it comes from the industry of telecoms, where you need to be able to relocate entities very easily on different machines, and everything must be extremely robust. And this paradigm of programming, actor-based programming, is the right way to be able to abstract away the physical machine that is running your processes, so that you can actually relocate them wherever you want, and you don't care about the physical, location of things. So that's at the heart of the, engineering that is going on, so that we can scale this up.
So it's
Well, that's
almost
really
like
cool.
the actor is the script, and then it gets passed around, pretty much, right?
Yeah. It's not
Okay.
it's not script actually. It's compiled for efficiency. But I mean, yeah, that's the idea. Yes, and
But
a
it's like an
typical
object.
language that has done that has invented this kind of things. Basically, it's called Erlang. And Erlang, if some people are interested, just go on the Wikipedia page or whatever. This is the language that invented actor-based programming. So we're not using Erlang because it's a bit difficult to find, programmers in Erlang. It's a bit exotic somehow, but we use the same, paradigm, the same framework, if you want.
Now let's talk about spatial bodies, because you were mentioning how things move at a slow pace, like in orbit. So are the solar systems going to be fully like rendered solar systems orbiting a sun?
No. So that's that for many reasons. Simply, if you have a planet that orbits the sun, then you have a lot of issues that you have to handle on the server side, which is basically, imagine you have somebody parked his ship, went for a vacation, and oops, it's on the trajectory of the planet. So this thing is going to be destroyed by colliding with the planet. So that poses a lot of,
Well, that's their fault.
yeah, but no, that's horrible, because we have to simulate collisions with every possible things all the time with the planet. This is very costly, and I think it would be felt as totally unfair from the point of view of the players. So we avoid everything that is unfair. So things that you don't understand why it happens to you, this is things we should avoid. That's why there is no Death Star ray. Sometimes people ask, could we blow whole planets? No, because for the people on the planet, that would be unfair. They will not understand what's happening to them. So same principle here.
So is the entire planet not voxel then? Is there like a certain point to where you couldn't conceivably dig anymore?
No, well, there's no limitation like that technologically. You could actually, right now, you can dig through the core of the planets, but we are going to add a limitation on the depth for gameplay reasons, because we would like to have some kind of lava that makes it actually the business of prospecting deep under the surface a bit dangerous, like in Minecraft. In Minecraft, at some point you start to be scared about maybe lava is going to fall on you, and the same idea is there. We might have actually a few moons that are without any lava, so you could dig to the core, but there probably will not be anything interesting to mine in these moons. So I don't know, but the idea is that we want to make it not possible for gameplay reasons.
Yeah,
So
the thing I can think of a lot of
I'm
things.
sorry, I did not completely answer your question about the planets. Our plan is to actually make them rotate around their axis. So this is probably something we are going to be able to do. There are some technical issues, but then you will have a day-night cycle because of the rotation of the planet. So that's very good already. And the fact that the planets do not move relative to each other is going also to make the business of planning your trips and evaluating how far things are much easier. If you never know where the planets are, you have to enter some complicated calculations about the optimal window of time to go to some other planets where you have some business to do there and so on. It makes it a bit complicated, and I don't think it brings a lot of interesting gameplay. It's just annoying. So that answers completely your question.
So does that mean then that the moons too are fixed at a certain point around those planets?
Yeah, I'd say for the same reason, moons will not be able to move. Collisions with orbital stations and so on. That would be a nightmare, and that would be costly on the servers for almost no gameplay benefit actually.
So the like gravity, perhaps. If I put something in orbit, it won't fall out of orbit because it's just going to be fixed up there, right? But I'm wondering about, well, could you use gravity to actually drop things on a planet though, if I wanted to? Like, let's say I build some orbital installation and I want to drop a rock on a city.
Well, the thing is, everything that moves is in our world is a construct that is actually controlled by a player. So once you start to control something, then there's you activate the physics of it, if you want. So you could very well orbit a planet because there's gravity and everything. As long as you're in your construct, your client is online, and you're actually piloting it, if you want, then it's going to work. If you go offline and you're more or less out of the atmosphere, then you're going to slowly slow down and stop to move because of these issues of collisions and things that we would have to maintain on the server side. So
Okay, but if I log out, my ship remains in the game though.
oh yeah, that's
Okay.
yeah. So that's an important thing because imagine you are in charge of a huge space station. You log out and suddenly the space station disappears. Doesn't make sense.
That would be kind of funny though. It's just like, oh, I'm gonna go dock right here, and then poof, it's gone.
So we can do that.
That'd be
So
terrible.
and you know it's very interesting because I don't see I don't think there's any game which had this kind of issues and this kind of answers to provide and problems to solve. So we have our ideas on that, but you know we are going to test a lot of things in alpha and beta because it's not obvious. It's not like you know there's a good practice and everybody knows yeah that's the way to do it. So we're trying to do you know intelligent guesses, but we might get wrong on certain things. So we will see.
All right, so we love those kind of technical answers here on the podcast. I got to tell you, we love hearing how the sausage is made. I'm curious about the actual gameplay, though. Now,
Yeah.
I think it was Jim that mentioned space engineers, and I'm going to be honest. I don't like building things.
Good.
I don't want to build anything. So
Good.
can I play too? Like, can I jump in and go? I just want to buy a ship and fly around and kill things.
Of course,
buy.
yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. I figured there would be, but I figured I'd ask.
Yeah, but that's the key thing is that in a single shard where you have an economy, people can specialize into what they really like to do, and they can make money out of that, and the rest they can buy it. So you don't like to build ships, that's all fine. You just buy a ship. You can use this ship to do something else that you like, combat, prospection, whatever, you know, logistics, transport, exploration. You know, so you don't have to build a ship. And even if you go more in details, I mean, the business of building a ship is there are several steps. You know, you have the design of the ship, you have the blueprinting, and then you have the factory production of the ship. This could be different people, you know, handling these different stages. There's even the scripting part where you are going possibly you are going to modify the script so that you have a different flight control, for example. All these things could actually be taken care of by different people.
Explain the scripting real quick. What is that?
So the idea of the scripting is to say that when you activate what we call a control unit, you will be able to have a script that you know specifies whenever there is an event like a key press or some information coming in the system, or you move your mouse or all those kind of events, we'll be able to trigger certain reactions from the elements that are part of your ship. So let me just explain. Elements are things like engines, weapons, radar, cockpits, everything that you can actually you know plug on the shape of your construct is what we call an element. It's an active functional part that does something, that adds you know some capability, some functionality to your construct. So those things they usually so they do something, and the script will be able to, you will be able with the script to activate those functions, but through programming. So you can do it manually, I would say, or you could use programming to activate those things. Typically, for example, setting the amount of thrust on an engine is something you could do in a script. And so you could actually use the script to check the balance of your ship. And based on this balance, you know, manage the load on the different engines so that you have your ship that doesn't fall or start to fly or equilibrate over the horizon or things like that. So this is an example of the things you could do with scripting. Actually, you will not necessarily have to do it because we have what we call an auto configurator that is able to look at your ship and to write the script for you so that it does the basic, you know, flying things that you expect from your ship. But if you're into scripting, you can go deep and actually add some fancy way of for this ship for maneuvers or you know interesting maybe autopiloting or things like that that you will be able to add yourself. So that's the idea, and we will add more and more you know possibilities for you to script, opening a door when somebody is is getting close to the door. This is a very simple example, or playing with some lights, or having, we will add more and more things. Writing on the screen, for example, there will be screen units that are elements, so you can craft a screen and put it anywhere you want inside the construct, and kind of obviously you will be able to script what happens on the screen. And I'm pretty sure some people will make some video games, right?
Yeah, the thing that's immediately
play Doom on your spaceship.
What it immediately reminds me of is the game Second Life from Linden Labs, because they have that economy in the game where people will create assets and then they sell those between players. Now they have a real money economy in there as well, but it's like I could build a car and then sell that car to other players, or whatever I wanted to do. Plus, they also have a whole scripting language that's in there. So if you wanted to make that car do things, then you can do that.
Yeah,
so,
I guess the basic principle is fairly similar, I imagine. Now, Second Life was not a game, and it was not, there was no gaming elements, I would say, like territory.
Right, it's a sandbox.
But and it was not a single shard. It was a lot of things that, single shard is not just fancy stuff. It changes everything. It changes the depth of everything you do in the game. So it is very important, and it transforms. It transforms the gameplay. A lot of the gameplay we have developed or we have in mind is not so new. I mean, you've seen it already in other games, but because it happens in a single shard where everybody plays in the same world at the same time, then it takes another dimension. Everything matters. Everything has consequences. It's part of this collective story that is unfolding. So even though some features you might find in other games, because it's like that, the single shard aspect is very important. It changes everything.
No, I just meant like the building things,
yeah.
being able to trade designs and actually apply scripts to them, and that, because I think that's going to unleash a lot of community creativity, because you have people that have that skill set.
Yeah,
they just don't have a good outlet for it, because it's like, well, I don't want to make a whole game, but I could make assets in something.
Yeah.
Now, is the scripting language, is it going to be Lua, or is it something? Yeah. Okay,
it's going to be Lua.
A lot of people know Lua already. So.
Yeah. Lua is pretty simple. It has also it's very well done the way you can interface it inside your code in C++, and so it allows us to control, how much CPU cycles it can have, things like that. So it's really great. I think it's a good choice.
Yeah, that's neat. And I see beyond just the space game here. I mean, once you prove the concept with that, I can see a lot of other things that could be done with this, just a different realm entirely.
Yeah. So, in our wildest dreams, in some distant future, we could very well add some elements so that people can rebuild more different type of settings, not only sci-fi. They could have a planet where they decide, okay, we're gonna do medieval stuff. Who knows? So that could be.
It'll be like the Lego Movie. You'll have Middle Zealand and you'll have Wild West World. Oh, that sounds great.
What I'm hungry for personally, and with all the Oculus Rift and VR technology that's going on, and nobody's making this game yet, I can't believe nobody's doing it, is the William Gibson style cyberspace thing. Yeah. Where it's like the movie Tron, right? Where you're inside a computer, whatever, and to do something like that, because you have absolute freedom, nothing has to make sense, because you're in a digital neon world, and then you build like a hacking game in there and whatever, and and instead of magic spells, you just throw programs at people, and those could actually be scripts that you wrote, which would be the wild thing. So. That, I mean, I can't believe that
we're getting into
we're in
Ready
the age
Player,
of VR headsets, and we're not doing that yet.
We're getting into Ready Player One territory here.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. That's an excellent reference. That's a book I read actually when I was already working on Dual Universe. And I really found it wonderful and full of excellent ideas. And I think that's really, I mean, this idea of having a virtual world where you can do anything you want is not new at all. I mean, you have Ready Player One. We could talk about Matrix. We could talk about tons of things where you have or this TV series Caprica. There's also the same idea, right? Well, I mean, this is a very old sci-fi, fundamental sci-fi idea that you could recreate this world. So um, this is it. I mean, it's not original. It's not new or the only thing is the technology to do that. So you have two aspects in the technology. You have the algorithms. So the things I started to talk about before, about this server tech that I mentioned. So this is kind of difficult to imagine, to set up. And then you have also the infrastructure, the fact that we're using these powerful CPUs. I mentioned the size of the hard disks, that not a problem anymore. The bandwidth you can expect either internally on your cluster, but also on the clients. All this, and the power, of course, of the rendering GPUs and things like that. So there's a moment where you cross this boundary where technologically it is feasible, while it was not. Like 5 years ago, I think it was not feasible to do what we're trying to do. So uh, my belief is that we just crossed this boundary. That now we could do this kind of world, and we just try to be the first to do it.
So I'm seeing something in this video that Brian's got looping here on the YouTube. There is something when you're flying through space and you're going from planet to planet to the space station. In the background is the skybox / stars, and there's a few of them that are glowing really bright blue. Is that part of the skybox, or is that an element that's out there?
No, it's part of the skybox for the moment. But I think it would be really, really nice to have this, not the skybox, but the actual, I mean, it could be a skybox that is computed from the information of the actual position of the stars. But I don't want to make any promise on that. This is something, we would all want to have. It's not so difficult technically. I mean, you just have to have those points in 3D space and then project them, right? So, but it's extra work for cosmetic reasons mostly. So we are definitely not going to work on that in the short term. We have much more urgent things to do. But in the long run, because it's an MMO, there will be expansions. They will be free, by the way. So there will be expansions, and we will constantly add more stuff to this game, right? So it's never the end of the possibilities. Like if you ship a single player game and you ship it, and that's it. And that's not at all the way it works with an MMO. And a good example, for example, is EVE Online. They kept adding more and more gameplay things. They improved their graphics also over time. They changed their engines and so on. So this is the kind of things we have in mind for Dual Universe in the long run, if we are successful, to last for many years. So yeah, no. Right now, what you see is a skybox. Man, unfortunately, that's what it is. But
Oh, that's cool. We do have a
so-
few questions from the audience, though. I don't know if we
Yeah.
want to address any of those.
Yeah, we have a few. First, a question from Alex. How will my space station be protected when I'm offline? Do I have to stop sleeping? He asks.
yeah, well, many answers to that. So first, there will be things that we call protection bubbles that allows you to create a very, very strong shield around your station. That the power of it could be directly proportional to the amount of money you have running an important station that could be a trade hub, for example. So the amount of energy you could put into this protection bubble could be absolutely huge, so that only very massive attacks would actually be able to endanger it. That's one thing. And even so, they would, we would have some 48 hours notice during which the bubble goes into indestructible mode and so on. So there would be a lot of ways to make sure that unless you're completely unprepared, I mean, you're running a huge space station that is a big trade hub or something like that, and you have no backup, you have no agreement for protection, this would be a reason why players should not actually put their assets into this market, right? So you would have to check that the organization that is behind this station is serious enough, so they have a protection plan. But anyway, so that's one part of the answers. The other thing is, a huge structure like this space station would most likely involve hundreds or I think thousands of players that would be in charge of running different aspects of it. So there's a good chance that you would in effect have a 24 hours crew in this station, because people are from Europe or the US and so on. So it's likely that such a big thing would be constantly taken care of, in my view.
So
So
I'm
you guys-
wondering.
Go ahead, Jim.
I'm wondering about real estate. So if I go down on a planet and
Yeah.
I build a building, do I get the same protection with that building, or could I log in tomorrow? Somebody's removed my building and built their own.
Yeah, so on
Because
the planet there's one extra. There are also the protection bubbles, like in space, but there's one extra thing, which is what we call the safe zone. To start with, there will be only one around the arc ship, which is the starting point for everybody. So you start the game by stepping out of the arc ship, and around this arc ship you have a 20 kilometers safe zone that is basically a non-PvP area. So nothing bad can happen to you there. Nobody can steal your stuff. So your building is completely safe if you make it within the safe zone. We plan on having more safe zone that you can discover. So as an explorer, you can discover, for example, ruins that will be activated into a new safe zone that will extend, the size of the non-PvP real estate, if you want, in the game, as the number of players is growing. But if you think about 20 kilometers, radius, that is about 1,000 square kilometers of real estate. That is about 1,000 tiles of territory that you can actually claim. And knowing that territory claiming will be an extremely expensive thing, it's not like you will have overnight 1,000 tiles that will be claimed. That's not going to happen. So there will be space for people to save some safe zone area, territory areas for them to build stuff that will be completely safe.
Okay, because I was looking at it as more of a real estate speculation market where,
It will
because
at some point.
people are going to absolutely apply real money to your game whether you do it or not, right? So it's like if I can get there and I can control territory and then sell that territory to somebody that wants it, then you could have a lot of transactions happen outside the game.
Well, yeah, that would be forbidden, and I know that's not enough, but just to say, there will also be a way for people to sell their territories, obviously through the game, through the in-game markets with in-game currency, and yeah, I'm not so sure, but I think it's possible that because of we have a system that we call DAC, which is almost the same thing as the Plex in EVE Online. Are you familiar with that? So just to
Yeah.
to present
Yeah.
that, it's the idea that you can buy a time coupon from Nova Quark that will actually become an item in your inventory that you can turn into 1 month of game time. Or that you can sell on the in-game market. So of course, if you buy the coupon, you don't turn it into 1 month of game time. You sell it on the in-game market to get in-game money. So you pay some real money and to get some virtual money within the game. So that's a mechanism that works very well in EVE. And the nice thing is that on the other side, you have a player that is a sort of an active player that makes a lot of in-game money from its activities, like trading, for example, or pirating. And every month he goes on the market and buy this time coupon, and he is actually turning it into 1 month of game time. So he basically is playing for free. I played EVE Online for 2 years without spending anything because I was trading on the in-game markets and I was making enough money in-game to actually pay my time coupons. So that's, by the way, it's an interesting point about the business model and the subscription model that people are always talking about. That in effect, if you're very active in the game, it's kind of likely that you will not have to pay for the game because you will be able to afford this time coupon. That being said, I suspect that this time coupon could actually limit the effect of the real money trade going on the side for territories or just for in-game money,
Okay.
because then you will have a competition to convert real money into in-game money, or in-game money into territory, that will actually, because it's a floating market, that will tend to equilibrate. And at some point you have a choice. You want the territory, do you want to pay for it, or do you want to, I mean, with real money to some bizarre website, or do you actually go through the legal normal way to do the same thing?
Mm,
So I'm not so sure about that. I need to think more about it, to be frank. But it could
okay.
be like this Plex like system as a also a nice effect on the trading on territories.
Okay, so a couple other things that I was wondering is with resources, because everything that you build in the game, like let's say we build that space station that needs a couple thousand players, it's going to be huge. So you're
Yeah.
going to need to gather a lot of resources to do that. Can you deplete the resources, or will like asteroids respawn after a time, so you can't ever deplete a system?
No, they don't respond. That's that's the hard truth about this. You will have actually to find new resources, and that's a good thing, because I think
Okay.
it helps to avoid having illimited situations of power where people are sitting on an infinite source of money, basically. And so if you find a very valuable resource and you start to mine it, you might get very, very rich and build a whole mining site around it, and so on and so on. But it will last for a time, and at some point, you need to think about prospecting more, and maybe some other organization will find another source, and then wealth will change hands. And I
Okay.
think this is a very interesting property. Now, about the space station, honestly, we have no idea how long it would take for how many players to build such a huge thing. We use some kind of power tools to build it faster, of course, ourselves. We couldn't spend so much time building a space station like that. So it's very interesting to see. I'm pretty sure people will do it, because the dream about making the Death Star is such a powerful drive. It will happen, and people are so surprising and so dedicated. But honestly, I don't know how much time or people it will actually take. It's
Okay.
hard, and how many planets you will need to actually harvest to find the resources you will need.
All right. The other question that I had for you is, because you're a veteran Eve player, and I can see that territory control, much like in Eve, is going to be probably even more prevalent here because of the limited resources and whatnot. So when you leave from one star system to another, is there a Stargate that can be controlled by a faction, or can you just warp out from anywhere? And that way you don't have a choke point that people can control access to the system.
Okay, so the interesting thing is that there will be Stargates, but they will be completely player made and player driven. So there's no predefined set of Stargates. I want to stress right away that this is not going to be available at release. It's explicitly planned for an expansion that will come later. But when it comes, then people will start to be able to build the Stargates. The way it works is that you need first to send a probe towards the destination where you want your Stargate to send you, right? And this probe is going to travel at the speed of light, which is pretty slow actually, towards the destination, and it will actually take maybe 1 week or 1 month to actually get there. And when it gets there, it deploys a first seed, if you want, that you can use to do a set of limited jumps, just a few of them, that you can use to convey the materials to the place and start to build your Stargate. So building a Stargate will be extremely expensive and will be very time consuming, and will be something that people will have to think about very strategically. For example, scanning about possible, in the map, about the planets, to find out whether they think they could actually have a chance to have certain types of material, whether that therefore it's worthwhile to build a Stargate to go and start to mine this system. So that has a consequence, several consequences. The first one is that the size of the known universe will grow as time goes on, and it's not like the whole universe will be accessible immediately. And I think a good property of that is that the universe will be filled with people. It's not like it'll be spreading into huge and nobody sees anybody. That's not the way it's going to work.
Well, is it
The
going to be
purpose-
where everybody starts on the same planet at the
And that's the
beginning,
same-
and you're
that's the
trapped
same
in the
idea.
same solar system until somebody builds a gate, right?
Exactly. And so actually, I think in the very beginning of the game, most of the things will just happen on the first planet, and then there will be a first expansion moment where people will start to unlock the warp drive technology that will allow them to travel easily between planets within the initial system that will hold maybe 10 to 20 planets. We don't know exactly, but something like that. And then they will unlock stargates, and then they will start to be able to explore further and further.
So are
So
you
we've got-
saying that the game's going to start like a space race?
Well, there will be a bit of that, yes, but the race is never finished. That's the beauty of it, I think, because you can always unlock a new stargate and go somewhere else.
Right,
And
but
one-
I mean,
one
you have to
last
start
thing-
somewhere. So if you're starting on the ground, that means that it's a race to see who can get up to space first and build the first space station. And
Yeah.
Yeah, my-
Wow, that's
gonna be a big
incredible.
drive. Sometimes people ask me about the quests. Do we need NPCs that give you quests? I don't think so. I think people will be incredibly motivated already to live their dreams in space and to build the first space station, to be the first empire to colonize a new planet, whatever. I mean, there's enough imagination in sci-fi for people to set themselves in motion. Maybe not everybody, but I mean enough people so that the others will find they will join their goals, and they will find things to do because of that. If you look at our community website, we started that a couple of months ago, a bit more I think, but anyway, not long ago. And it's a site where you can actually create an organization and start to recruit. And it's amazing. There are more than 700 organizations already have been created. Some of them are incredibly detailed, where people are specifying their goals, their structure, their government structures, the constitution. I mean, it's very impressive what happens. And they recruited, for some of them, already more than hundreds of people inside their organization. So,
So
this is living by itself.
my prediction is that Goonswarm will build the first Stargate, and then they will charge extreme amounts of money to use it or destroy you. And anybody else that builds a Stargate, they'll just blow it up. That's
Well, our job as game designers is to make sure that we can have such a power and counter power, so that you have a way to counter this kind of extreme situation. That you can, indeed, I mean, you can build several stargates to the same destination and have them compete. Yes, they can try to destroy your construction site as you're going, but then, I mean, if there are enough people who want to oppose that, I think there should be ways within the game to counteract it. But I know it's challenging. I know EVE Online. I know how it goes.
Yeah.
But we are aware of that, and we're trying to imagine game mechanics so that this will be more difficult.
Well, I think
The bounty system, for example, is a way we're thinking about making it more, how to say, maybe more punishing for actions that are unjustified. So that we're thinking about ways, and we are not done with all the things we have in mind. We are going to talk about it in more details when it's ready. But yeah, it's challenging.
See,
for sure.
if I could build a Stargate and then just put a fee on it, so it would be almost like a toll gate.
Yes.
So it's like, if you want to fly through my Stargate, you have to swipe your credit card,
Yeah.
and then you can use it.
Or you could pay a subscription to that Stargate system, so you have access to sort of a highway of space, and your company is basically setting the conveniency of having access to a large Stargate network.
Yeah, I just have to have some way to actually make the person passing through the gate pay the toll before they could use
Yeah,
it.
that will be done. That will be part of the things we do.
This last 10 minutes of conversation has just sold me, JC. I was really excited about this game, but like when you started talking about starting points, stargates, and all this other stuff, I'm pretty sure I'm sold. So I'm super excited now for this game.
Great. And you know what? Me too. And the thing is, I really want to play that game. So and I think, me and also all the people in the team, we have this culture about gaming, um, that I think we I mean, intuitively we know the kind of things we all dream about, right? So we're trying to make it happen.
Yeah, that's cool
I,
because I can see the stuff that Braben's trying to do with Elite. Um, the thing could eventually turn into that where you have multiple player run stations and gates and different worlds, and then you would have people that could just be a trader that would run resources between places and sell things and that because honestly that's what I want to do. I just want to be a truck driver in space. That's
Mhm.
it. And this would actually give me a reason to do it. Um, versus something like Elite, I can get kind of bored because everything's already established, and you just find the best thing and run that, and it never runs out. So but this would actually, I think, develop its own economy that would work like a real economy versus something that's just some random numbers.
And there's one aspect of economy that is almost never included into games, and this is innovation. The fact that you can innovate and compete on the best design of your ship, the best scripting for control, and the best whatever, so that you don't have a fixed set of assets or things that you can actually inject in the economy, but it's limited. And if you think about it, this is fundamental because in the real economy, innovation is a fundamental driver. Remove innovation, and I mean, you don't have an economy. At some point, it stagnates. So this is a very interesting first, I think, sort of an experiment that we push the in-game economy, not only being realistic with the markets and so on, but also having innovation possible.
Uh, we have a few interesting. We have three questions from one person. First off,
Let's go.
can I make a living hunting fauna or wildlife? How do you hunt fauna? Like hunt trees?
Oh.
Like how do you hunting plants?
Well, that relates to the more general question of survival in the game and
Yeah.
having a large fauna, or being able to harvest for plants, for example, for medicines and things like that. So we are all into this. We think it's not a top priority, so we will do just a little bit of animals to make the world lively. But the big feature where you have a real interesting gameplay going on, especially since some games have made their whole gameplay about that. So it's not something that you can make as an afterthought or just half cooked. I mean, so we prefer to say that the big thing will come at some point through an expansion, but at the beginning, since it's not the heart of the game, it's not the first thing we are going to do. We're going to add a few animals for sure, but nothing. I mean, that will make, I think, the game as I don't know, the reference of hunting. It's something we're going to work on a bit later.
Did you ever play Star Wars Galaxies though? Because there was
Personally,
a
yeah, no, I haven't personally, but I heard about it a lot, and I think there's a lot of very good things in this game.
Okay, because that was the first game that had player controlled cities and economies and stuff, and it went into that. So I'm sort of seeing some parallel there because it's like, our group, we could go just start a town somewhere and run it. And
Was it a single shard or not?
no, it was multiple because each planet was basically a separate server. But they had
no, 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 no. I mean, they had multiple servers like in WoW, but there was a complete solar system that had different planets you could go on that had cities on different planets and stuff like that.
But the cities, if it's not a single shard, I mean, how many people were in the cities?
Well, in its heyday, there was 100 of people, at least more in cities.
Okay, but then there were NPCs to fill the gaps, I suppose.
Well, they had NPCs to use for like as like merchants, right? So like I set up a shop and I put an NPC there that can interact with people to sell my stuff.
Okay, well, the thing we will dream of is having the capital city of some kind of empire in the safe zone around the arc ship with 100,000 people in it. That's the thing we would love to see. Maybe it will take us 10 years to reach that point. But then
A
you think
hundred
about it.
thousand people. That is ambitious.
Well, if
How
you
many
trap
did you
everybody
say?
in the same system, then you'll have.
Well, there's also a difference between also the number of people who are in a given zone and the number of people who are logged in. This is always a factor of 10 usually.
Yeah, it's
I'm
the reason that I brought up galaxies is the economy that was there, where because people would create like extraction machines, and they would have a farm which was almost like oil pumps that would be there, but they would
Uh-huh.
pump minerals and whatnot, and they would go out and tend to that and then collect whatever it had collected over a day or two, and then take that back to their factory, and then they had a blueprint system and they would create things. But what was really odd about it is the database that they had. Like for every item that got created, let's say I make 1,000 guns, each one of those guns would have a separate serial number and have its own unique stats and that, which I thought was a bit excessive, but it was just a very unique thing that particular game did. And what I can see is the appeal of your game will, because there hasn't been anything like that since, and there's that whole group of people that used to play that game, and they would come immediately to you because it's like, well, we can make our own town somewhere and run it our own way and do whatever. So I think you've got that whole population sealed right now.
That's a good point. Yes, and I mean they are most welcome, and there are also people coming from Eve, some people coming from EverQuest Landmark, some very very good builders, um, and I guess that there will also be a lot of people coming from no other game. I mean, no other MMO, because they never had the kind of mix of features that they really wanted in what existed so far. So we'll see.
All right, another question is, I'm not sure what this means. Crafting extends to materials and types of resources. I guess they mean like, are you going to be mining on planets for resources? Because I think we kind of touched upon that, but like, it wasn't really clear how you gain resources. Do you gain it by building mines? Do you gain it by mining yourself manually? How do you gain resources to help build ships, for example? How does
Okay,
that
so
work?
And furthermore, how many different types of resources are you going to have?
Okay, so several questions. The
Sorry.
exact no problem. The exact number of resources I cannot tell at this stage, but there will be a mix between the usual stuff that you have in in reality, plus a few exotic materials that are here to explain somehow that you're able to make. I don't know, Stargate, for example. So this kind of thing. So about mining, so far the way we think about it is that it's something you do yourself. So a bit like in Minecraft, you can have some powerful tools to do it. But the basic tool you can use, and probably the first one we are going to introduce, is the nanoformer, which is the thing that is attached to your hand and allows you to collect materials and deploy it anywhere you want. So basically, it's about mining. And then, in terms of game design, I think there's a choice to make between automation and having people mining themselves. If you introduce automation, then it becomes completely obsolete to mine yourself. Nobody's going to do that anymore. And I think that might be a problem because a lot of beginners in the game will actually find mining as an easy first thing to do that will make a few bucks within the in-game economy. And if we make the mining automatic, um, basically it's gonna end the mining gameplay. That will be finished. It will become the gameplay about building automatic mining stuffs, and that will be all what it is about. So since I think it's important to preserve certain basic activities for beginners so that everybody has something to do in the game, I don't think there will be things like automatic mining. You will have to go and mine yourself. Then we will introduce more powerful ways to mine certain types of materials with ships probably, but this is still in discussion with always the same idea in mind. not breaking some parts of the gameplay, because the most efficient way to do something will become the only way to do it, at some point,
Mm.
because people optimize. So you have to keep that in mind. And we want to have, beginners just mining with the nanoformer and making a decent money from that.
Yeah, well, the thing that I was thinking about is like asteroid mining. If you
Yeah.
guys do this right, it would be, you don't have the ability to have food up there or oxygen or water, the things that you're going to need. So if you get a group of people and they decide, okay, we're going to start a business, we're going to build a spaceship, we're going to fly up to the asteroid field and we'll establish a base there, and then you're going to need somebody that's going to actually buy supplies and fly them
Yes.
there, and
Yes, it's
so you'll have a
interesting.
delivery economy and that, so that'll become its own complexity just because of the dynamic of
Yeah.
survival up there.
That's an interesting point also, that survival, it should not the best way to do it is if you are in the civilized world, and then it doesn't become a problem. It's not a problem anymore, because you can just buy your food and in high quantities, and you always have some, and you don't think about it that much anymore. It vanishes. Otherwise it becomes a core that you have to always eat, and it's boring, and it breaks your game. So but at the same time, it should be that in certain extreme circumstances, like the one you mentioned, or exploring a very far away planet, and you don't have access to this food supply anymore, then it becomes it's coming back, and you start to have to think about feeding yourself, and there's this problem that comes back because you are in this extreme situation. I think this would be the kind of game design we will try to do for that. And about asteroid mining, there is a question that it's still open whether you would do that with a ship. So you basically orbit the asteroid and you mine it with a sort of a remote mining device, or whether you have to actually go on the asteroid yourself and use your nanoformer and the things I mentioned before. So this is still an open question. We don't have the answer, the final answer. But yeah, that's a good example of trade-offs we have to make.
Well, if an asteroid is deformable like the rest of the terrain, if I hit it with weapons, I'm going to cut it in half or knock pieces off of it, right?
Yeah.
So that would be a way to see like what's in it. I'll go up there and blow chunks off of it, and then I might have to get out and actually pick up the pieces of it then. Or I would come up with some system, because inventive people are going to craft things. If you had a ship where you could scoop the chunks into the ship, but then so now you're in a safe environment, but then you have to go down to the cargo hold and use the nanoformer on it to actually extract the minerals. I could see a combination of the two working, where the ship would enable you to get access to it.
There's a technical limit that will make it impossible for us. Is that it's like in Minecraft, when you cut something in two, the two things are still connected basically, so they don't fall apart. So an asteroid would be a whole voxel entity, and if you cut the middle of it, it would not actually make some pieces that fly around and things like that. It would just stand as a whole. This is a technical constraint we have with the model we have in mind, because if you think about it, it would actually generate potentially millions of floating entities everywhere that would load the server, and that would not be scalable. So the way we manage everything, be it a ship or an asteroid, is that it's a whole. So when it's a one thing, right? So once you break some parts, if they get disconnected, they don't necessarily spread or separate physically from each other.
Okay. Yeah, I mean the way
I want to say that
space
so that people
engineers.
don't start to have their imagination going too far. I always want to get back to how the game is really going to be.
Okay, well, we need to start wrapping up soon, so I'm sorry. But I do have one last question from the Peanut Gallery. Can I deorbit my shit? Yeah, that was great. Can I deorbit my station? Can I deorbit my station and drop it onto a city, like, say, in Justice League when they had the Watchtower and they dropped it like a freaking anvil?
Yeah.
some aliens.
No, you can't do
All
that.
right.
Sorry. The reason is the same principle I mentioned before, is the fairness. If you do that, imagine you are a peaceful citizen somewhere on this planet, and then suddenly, boom, you have a space station falling on your head. Um, Even mentioning, I mean, the server cost of this kind of dramatic events, it would be completely unfair. So if you have something that is massive in orbit, you will not be able to crash it on the planet. I'm sorry.
What? I do have one last question myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes or no? Space elevators.
Interesting. Interesting. There's no reason why we couldn't do that. Yeah, well, I don't know. We're gonna think about it. I mean, you need some way to travel along the elevator, so that's the part that we need to think about it, which is not so far away from the notion of trains. You know, the fact that you could define some kind of a line along which your construct is going to move itself, right? But there's no problem of size, of how big you could build things in altitude. We are going, however, probably to limit it for gameplay reasons. Like, you know, you need. I'm sorry, I see you. But I mean, imagine you build something very, very, very big, very high, and it's made of wood. Doesn't make sense. So it may be that because of material limitations,
It's space wood.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, totally.
No, we'll see. We'll
Wood.
see. Especially since the
Wood.
planet is going to be rotating, this might actually lead to some, you know, difficulties. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
We'll see.
when you guys said trains, I immediately thought of the heavy metal queen from
Cowboy Bebop.
Cowboy Bebop. Yeah, so we'll have to send JC a clip from Cowboy Bebop and just be like, we don't care as long as we
Definitely
get
won't
that.
do- Yeah.
As long as you can put this in there, we don't care.
Just make that one thing, and I don't care what else you do.
Okay.
All right,
Let's have a-
JC. Sorry, JC. Let's wrap it up. Where can people, besides Kickstarter, where can people find you guys online to follow the progress of this awesome-looking game?
Well, that's a very good question, because sometimes people miss these very rich sources of information. So there is a dev blog that we are running for more than 2 years now, which is basically devblog.jewelthegame.com. So in this dev blog, we explain a lot of ideas we have about a lot of aspects of the gameplay, territories, right and duty management system, organizations, and so on and so on. So I really encourage people to have a look at this dev blog. There's also the forum, where it's very full of people. There's more than 2,500 people already. And this is board.duelthegame.com. And finally, you know, the site I mentioned at some point, community.duelthegame.com. This is the place where you can create your organization. And even if you don't want to create an organization, go there, have a look at let's say the 10 or 20 most prominent organizations. It's very impressive what those guys are doing. And look if maybe you want to join them. You know, maybe you find their project interesting. There's a lot of things going on. So yeah, have a look. And Facebook and
758.
Twitter and yeah. Sorry. Yes.
I was going to
Yeah.
say 758 entries for the organizations on your
I guess
site.
I guess we need to start a space game
Pretty
junkie organization. I guess we need to get that off the ground.
Yeah, I encourage you to do that. Yes, for sure. And state your goals. You know, what are you going to be inside this world?
We're gonna have fun. That's our goal. Is just to have
Sounds
a goddamn good time.
What do we want?
good.
When do we want it?
Now, fun. Yes, in that order. So JC, I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to us. I know you've been on a whirlwind of late, Paris to New York, PAX, all that stuff. So I want to thank you. You must be exhausted for taking the time to talk to us. Again, folks, the game is on. The game is Dual Universe. It is currently kickstarting. It has about 2 weeks left. According to ClickTrack, I don't want to jinx anything, but according to ClickTrack, you are going to make your goal. So, I'm physically knocking on wood to
Thank you.
to make sure that you guys make it. But it's looking good. I don't think you need our help, but we're happy to do it.
When do we
Yeah.
get to play this thing?
Good question. That'll be the final question.
That's a good point. Yeah, yeah. So the plans we have is, if everything goes well, is that we have the game in first release at the end of 2018, but already an alpha in the first half of next year, so 2017, and in between beta, about probably one year after the alpha or something like that.
All right, just a couple of final notes, folks. Thursday for the stream, we don't know what we're doing yet. I mean, Hunter suggested the ship, but we
need like 4 or 5 people at least as a minimum to play that.
And so far we only have 3. So plan B, if we don't do the ship, is Space Marine. Warhammer 40,000K Space Marine, which is currently on sale, by the way, folks, on Steam week-long sale. You all should own it anyway because it's great. Seriously. And next week on the podcast, we are going to talk mods. We're going to have the lead designer, developer person of the amazing Blue Planet mod for Free Space 2.
Nice.
So, yeah, that's exciting. We're very excited about that because if you guys haven't seen Blue Planet, it's basically Free Space 3, and it's amazing. It's fully
reinstall that.
Fully voiced, amazing graphics, great, fantastic story. Cloud Vault said Space Marine, going back to that, is one of the few good 40K games. He's not wrong. So he's totally not wrong there. So yeah, folks, thank you so much for listening and watching. JC, again, thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time. Have a great night, everyone.